it's not. I need to press to go live. Okay. There we go. Okay, third time's the charm, hopefully. First two times had technical issues. Oh god, hopefully not again. Anyway, so this video is about Linux and how to use it easily. There are a few ways to tackle it. One, hire a virtual and private server, which is a Linux server somewhere else that you access remotely. It is about €3 a month, and if you want to do anything with the web in the future, I would recommend you look into one in the future because really useful to have. The second option is one that Sahira mentioned, was dual booting, in which you install both Windows and Linux onto your machine, and you can swap between them when you start your computer. As you can expect, it has advantages in that you've got a full-fledged Linux system, but the disadvantage is that you cannot run both at once, and Windows and Linux don't often play nicely together. Secondly, Windows doesn't tend to like Linux installs and can wipe the boot partition by accident, and maybe less now. It used to be more of a problem in the past. The third option is to install something like VirtualBox, which takes Linux and puts it virtually within VirtualBox program, which is on Windows. Again, pros and cons. Pros in that it's within Windows and you can access it without rebooting your computer. Downside is that sometimes config can be annoying to get right and can cause issues. And finally, if you're on Windows 10 or 11, which I hope you are, Windows 7 went end of life a year or 2 or 3 ago. COVID really affected with time. Could have been before COVID, and you should not be using anything less than 10 at the moment. If you're using Linux already, don't know why you're here. Is there what's the guy with the good ears? I don't know. Either way. So, WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, is a Linux server within Windows. It uses Windows' own virtualization technology called hypervisor, and it is incredibly seamless to use. So to begin with, you have to open up PowerShell, which is this here, and you will have to run it as administrator. And yes, I do want to run it, and you should have something similar to this. And I'm going to type WSL, and I'm going to get something interesting here. For me, it's saying this. For you, if it's the first time you're running it, it's probably going to start downloading stuff and may take about 5 to 10 minutes depending on network connection. It will then want to reboot your computer. So, pause here and I'll see you when you've rebooted. Or rather, you didn't see me, but you get the idea. So, welcome back. You have now rebooted your computer, and if you open up PowerShell again, type in WSL, and it will probably continue finishing the installation process. And once that finishes, type in WSL again, and you should get this exact same text that I have here. And now what I'm going to do is open up a new PowerShell window, not administrator. You can see the difference here is that administrator has A, administrator in the title, and B, it goes to Windows System 32. I don't like to be there. If you don't have to be administrator, then don't be administrator. It's permissions and good practice. So now I type WSL, and it brings up this. Now, what would happen, do you think, if I made this bigger, A, and then type in help? WSL space dash dash help. It will bring up a list of all the arguments that I can feed it. And first one of note for me is list and online. And see why this is the good one? Displays a list of online distributions for install with WSS installed. So WSL online list as online, and that one come back with these. Ubuntu, fairly common one, very user friendly. Debian, more used for industry because it's stable as fuck. Kali Linux, if you're doing cybersecurity, you probably end up using this. It's for pen testing, penetration testing, basically gaining to other people's computers. Interesting stuff. The rest of these you don't really have to concern with too much. The three here at the bottom are LTS, long-term service, in that they're maintained by Ubuntu for a long time and fairly stable. They won't be up to date, but they'll be stable. And so, now if you remember, this says displays a list for WSL install. So I'm going to go up here, find install, and it has here this argument here. You can select the distribution, and I'm going to just copy this line here because I'm lazy and I don't want to type it out. WSL -- install distribution Debian. I like Debian, and it's going to pop up here. And it's going to take a minute or two, maybe less, because I have it installed before and I've got a fairly decent computer. So it's going to ask me for a username. I'm going to go Silver because I like it. And it's going to ask me for a password then. Oh, fuck knows. Excuse me, sorry about that. And I'm going to type in my password here. Pretty sure you hurt my keyboard, but the cursor did not move. This is a security feature from Linux where, because it's a command line, everything you entered previously will remain on screen. You can see the last line here, Silverstone there. If the password was visible, anyone could just look over my shoulder and say, "Oh, that's a lovely password, yoink." And so it hides it from view and keeps the cursor in one spot so that people don't know how long it is either. So I'm going to press enter. It's going to ask me to enter it again. Again, cursor does not move, and boom. Now I have successfully installed and created my user account. I'm going to close this off, and so there are two ways to enter into the operating system now. One is to PowerShell, which I open up here and type WSL, and it's going to bring me straight in. You can see Silver at the computer name, and I'm in this directory at the moment. If I can nose. The other way is if I go and search for DEB, Debian, it's going to pop up in its own window here. There's no real difference between the two. You can use either, they're the exact same. So I'm just going to go here. So it is probably very difficult to view here, but because it's black, dark colors are, oh wait, can I go colors, and I want to go doesn't have a theme. Yeah, sadly it can't change it too much. So it's a kind of this symbol here, which is the wavy line, that symbolizes the home directory, and that's where you are at the moment. So if I go, and this is where I transition over from installing WSL to some basic commands. if I go ls, it lists the files in the current directory. It seems like there's none, but if I do the command again, and this time do -a or all, it's going to show me a few extra files. These files begin with a dot, and so for historic reasons they are hidden from view on Linux. It is in part due to how Linux file system works, and the current folder is a dot. It's symbolized with a dot. So when a file starts with that, it hides it from view. You don't really have to know the full history, it's just nice to know. They're often used for configuration files or stuff that you don't want the actual end user to see. Now I'm gonna make a new file. So touch. Touch example. So I now have a file here. Ooh, that's a nice sound. Called example. There's nothing in it though. I only just told the operating system to create a file. Now I'm gonna go and type nano. Nano is an editor, and if I go nano example, I can come up to this. So hello, how are you? I'm good. That's 3 lines there. Very nice to work with. But how'd you get out of this? Well, you see here at the bottom, and I'm very sorry for the small size. I have a large screen, and I sit really close to it. So here we have up and X. So what that means is Control X. So when I press Control X, it's going to come up and ask me save modified buffer. And the buffer is memory. This entire bit of text here that I've typed, that's still in memory. It's not yet saved to the file. So I do want to save it. So I press Y because it's saying yes if I hit down here. And it's asked me to the file name to write to. And I'm going to just press enter because I'm keeping the same file name. Now if I go, there is another command called cat or concatenate. C-A-T P example. So when I do cat example, it's going to take all the contents of example and just blurb it out onto the screen. There's no file extension, there's no txt. How would we know how to access it then? Well, we can always go mv, move it, example, to example.txt. Now if I go ls again, it's going to see it as example.txt. And now, what else can we do? Oh yes, we can make a directory. So make a mk dir, and it is, what should I name it? Lab. So now if I go ls, there should be 2 things. There should be example.txt in white, and lab here is in blue, and really hard to see. Again, sorry about this. So lab is in blue, and the blue indicates that it's a folder. So if I go into lab, so cd lab, and I go ls, there's going to be nothing here because there was literally nothing in the file. So if I go cd change directory up, the // means go up 1 level of directory, and we come back to the home, and I want to copy example.txt, and I want to copy it into lab example2.txt. So lab example2.txt. Now if I go back up into lab and do ls, it is going to be there, example2.txt. And that rough overview of some very basic commands, how to move about. The next one relates to CS4004, and that is git. So by default, git is not installed on Debian WSL systems. It's not installed on Linux to begin with, so you have to get it. So if I go apt get install git, this is the commands that will be used to install git. When I run it though, there's a slight problem. It's telling me I do not have permission to do so, and it's asking me, are you root? And the way you go and fix this, at least temporarily, is something called sudo. Sudo gives you root access temporarily. And remember that password at the beginning where I entered in? That's where this comes up again. So if I type in the password now, it's gonna again not appear on screen, and press enter, and oh, unable to locate packets git. Well, that's kind of expected. It's a fresh system. It doesn't know where the packages are installed. So if we go sudo apt-get update, it then updates its list of packages that are available. And ooh, great, that's good. So now if I go back up and try to install git again, it's gonna go, ooh, wow, that's different. And it asks me, do I really want to install it? Type yes and enter, and boom, it is now installing git. And give it a minute, and boom, done, git. So git, and yeah, git is now installed. And with this, you should be able to start the 4004 lecture that we lab that we will be doing tomorrow-ish. Yeah, tomorrow. Quick overview of it anyway. And then that's it. If you need any help, you roughly know where to find me.